In this video, I'm going to give you 5 of my biggest lifestyle changes that I made after my IBD diagnosis. The first of these was constant pressure. Before my diagnosis, I had university pressures, I had work pressures, and then through my early years of my diagnosis, that carried on in the same trajectory because of work that I was doing. So now, rather than having a really hectic calendar and feeling like I need to be on it all the time, I intentionally take maybe half an hour every day to collate my thoughts and to be present. And that's had a huge impact on just calming things down for me. The second, and this is one of the biggest ones, is I stopped living by other people's routines. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, when you're first diagnosed and everyone seems to think that your issue isn't as serious as it is. So they probably assume it's a bit of bellyache or it's just a little cramp, come and have a beer, come and have a pizza, don't worry, it'll be fine. And in the early years, I did do that. I did go out and see my mates. I would go out and spend time with them and I would still try and be a part of that lifestyle. The problem was that every time I would go out, I would come back and the next few days to a week even, or even longer, I had to pay for it. I was the one suffering. My mates had a hangover, carried on like nothing had happened, and I would be the one there suffering for weeks on end. Sometimes that would mean new medications, sometimes it would mean hospital visits, but it got to the point where I realized I couldn't keep giving my routine to other people to manage. So being able to say no is really important. Number 3, the productivity culture. The productivity culture for me was something where, because I felt like I wasn't getting far enough in my job, I felt like I had to continuously look for things outside of my job to get ahead. So I spent all my hours outside of working doing extra bits. And actually, it didn't do me any favors at all, because the only thing it did was it took away any downtime that I needed to sort of recalibrate and essentially rest to be able to then go for another week. So I was actually burning the candle at both ends, and it didn't work for me. I just felt like I made myself sicker. So being aware of productivity routines is really important, and it's really important that you acknowledge that your time is yours. It's not all about being productive all the time. The next point is basically mental noise. So again, touched on this in the first point, but I never actually had any time in silence. Silence for me now is really important. I take the Italian approach of il dolce far niente, essentially meaning to enjoy the sweetness of doing nothing. So every day I do have an allocated time slot at the end of the day where I will sit and I will do nothing for about 20 minutes, half an hour. And that's just my attempt to sort of recalibrate my mind and calm everything, really. And it works. There's a reason why the Italians are so chilled generally, and a lot of it will come down to that kind of, that slower approach to life, of which that ability to sit down in silence for half an hour is actually quite powerful. And then the last point is not being too affected by other people's judgment. When you get this diagnosis and maybe you start looking at different job options, feel like some people really do get caught up in other people's judgment when you get this condition, to continue to try and battle your way up the corporate ladder. For me personally, I decided to take a step back from high pressure environments. This conscious change to make my job more in line with my health is something that serves me, because it helps me to keep my health in check. So if we can live more in line with a way that is likely to make that happen and likely to mean we don't need as much help and that our guts are doing much better, then I think that's a win. And sometimes it's very hard to see that win when you're seeing the loss of other things, in terms of, well, I'm not being able to go and do that job anymore and I can't do this or that. But like I say, this disease can put you on a different pathway for things. And as long as you're not too influenced by other people's judgment, I think you can start to find the right path for you. And that path is the one that hopefully long term, it will give you the stability you need to stay healthy as well. So those are my top tips for changing your lifestyle. If any of you have had similar experiences, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you on the next one.